not as nihilistic as they look on the internet. You guys, this is me.
Oh, whoa.
Is this your first relationship? Oh, no. You just kind of give that vibe.
Oh, you know that has weed in it, right?
I want to start off and ask you, considering that I am very much not Gen Z at all, what is the most daunting part of trying to approach a cast that knows this kind of, that knows this experience? Because I think it's quite different from, I suppose, when you and I were teenagers, or not even teenagers, but like that kind of, 20-something period.
I think you're a lot younger than I am, but that's
I'm
fine.
36, so I'm not that far off you, but I'm wondering, what was what was the most daunting part of trying to approach this time period again and do it authentically, or was that even a concern for you?
No, it was definitely, because I was very much aware of my age and my ambition to make it about sort of youth culture. I think the core of it was that I said to myself, listen, in the end, I just want it to be about human behavior, and group behavior, and I feel like even though we didn't grow up with smartphones and we still had to get a big book out of our cupboard and read about in the encyclopedia and look it all up, I do feel that we are overwhelmed by technology as well. I'm so addicted to my phone, it's obscene, and so I feel that we are all in this together. But of course, a specific vocabulary and all those things, that sauce that we put over it, that is, of course, very specifically for them. And I think I was afraid of it. So I talked to A24, I said, listen, we need to get a very, very young writer, to work with me on this. And so we found Sarah De Lap, who's a playwright, and I come from the theater, and I fell in love with her really, really, really in a really obsessive way. And I think we just hit it off, and her being young and her being, she came from a very elite school, Yale, I believe. So she had a lot of inspiration. And then, I never felt limited in my creativity, and also just very vulnerable towards my actors, being like, listen, is this how you speak? Do you find this funny? Is this the music you're listening to? Tell me about yourself. And then writing that all in the script, literally eavesdropping on them and making notes and then asking them if it was okay to use it. So that's how because I don't know how you feel about it, but I hate watching films about a certain subgroup and you don't believe it, because it can be so, and you just cringe from so I wanted it to be at least feel real. And even though it's a satire and it's a fable, I still wanted it to be genuine and authentic in that way.
Yeah.
Who wants to play bodies, bodies, bodies?
So how do you play?
If you draw the piece of paper that has the X on it,
You are the murderer.
let's go.
Cool.
And if you're the murderer, you have to kill someone by touching them on the back.
The most important part, if you come across a body, you have to yell,
Body, body, body!
wow. Is that the lights? David?
You touched on something there that I was going to ask about. Was you're obviously this is your second film, your first English language film, but prior to that, you obviously are an actor in the Netherlands, and I'm wondering, do you use, because I've talked to different actors, directors who were previously actors, and I know a good few of them noted that they kind of had this store of experiences that they were that happened to me. When I become a director, when I get to do something, I'm never going to fucking do that. I'm going to make a point of not having that environment, or I'm going to make a fucking point of giving everyone as much rehearsal time as I can physically allow. I suppose you, in your experiences as an actor, this is now in your second film, what was the one thing that you made a point of to either do or not do?
So your questions are great. I think I have to say before I answer that, I think that part of also what happens when you disappear to the other side, when you walk over to the other side, because I also have a production company, you also grow up. You know, you also realize that being an actor, even though it's incredibly hard, and I don't want to go back to it ever, like I'm truly retired because it's so hard, because it's your emotions, your body, your trauma, it's such an embarrassing profession. I can't even start to explain that to you. But at the same time, you also realize, okay, so all of this has been going on behind me. You know what I mean? And all of this goes into even like creating a film and being picked up in a car and just driven to the thing where you then, so it's two-sided for me. It's not only that I'm like, and I'm going to do everything differently. I'm also really humbled by becoming a director, where if you become a parent, I'm not a parent, so I don't know, but you hear a lot of people say, oh my God, now I understand my mom, now I understand my father. So that's there. And then the other side of it is, then of course, my main thing, and I'm not talking about physically safe, because especially in America, that is all really taken care of, but the mental safety. I think a lot of, especially great theater actors, but actors in general, can sort of freeze in front of a camera, because you feel the camera so close to you and there's so much pressure, and now you have to do it and it's going to be forever. There's, with theater, you can think, I'll do it again tomorrow. And the audience is quite far away. So there's much more room to flow and to bring yourself into this state of truth. And I feel that I am capable of creating circumstances in which an actor can experience that despite it's not theater. So really long takes, really helping them, guiding them to prepare themselves extremely thoroughly so that they can let go in the moment, really creating the circumstances in which they don't feel that they're going to choke. And I think that is something that is very important. I wish somebody would have done that with me as a film actress, so that's something that I bring, I think.
Yeah, you've mentioned it a couple of times now, so I feel I can ask you about this. You come from theatre, and having talked to a lot of people in theatre, I know that, and again you've touched on this yourself, is the idea of, okay, well, if we didn't get it today, fuck it, we can get it tomorrow. And every performance you put on every night is going to be different. An actor is going to bring something every day. I guess for you, seeing as your background is so kind of heavily rooted in theatre, when you're working with comedy, spontaneity is everything. Yes. I'm wondering, were the casts up for that, and did you have to alter any kind of aspect of your directing in order to get that?
No, it's a great question. I think that they were definitely up to that, because we also cast the movie very aware of this, So we not only had people that were like classically trained, but we also, or we had some movie stars, but we also had people like Pete Davidson, who is a stand-up comedian, and all they do is really be able to improvise, or Rachel Sennett, and Pete being on SNL. That's kind of like, the biggest stage where you have to. So we would very, very much on purpose create spaces for them to do that. But I think there's a misunderstanding a lot about improvisation, especially watching Francis Cassavetes films, that if you don't know it, I would recommend everybody to watch those. If you watch those, you're like, oh my God, everything's improvised. They just do whatever they want. But of course, a great chaos and something that feels very alive is often created by a very deliberate structure. So I feel that me really being supportive and sort of trying to really tell them, like, prepare, know all your lines. And then so they came to set really prepared, and we would shoot the scene the way it was meant on the page. But then we would do different takes where I gave them total freedom. And I think that freedom then feels not scary to them, because it's not like freedom in the sense that there's nothing. They have a structure, and within that they are allowed to bring their own ideas or do whatever comes to their mind. And I think that is wonderful. So if you can really tame the horse and then you let go, you get beautiful miracles. Yeah. And in that, I also think it really helped me that I know what it is to be in their shoes. I know how that, what you're saying, that can also really be scary. If you tell someone, okay, just improvise, for a lot of people, that's super intimidating. But they were up for it, and especially Rachel, especially Pete, but also Amanda, for instance, had some really wonderful ideas. And she would be more like already on the page, like, ask me, can I change this? Can we add this? Can we add that from a different version of the script? They were constantly co-creating with me, which was amazing.
What about on pre-production or even in production? I mean, what films were you watching? Do you watch films when you're on the way up to a film? What do you what kind of art do you take in on the lead up to a film?
When I'm shooting, I cannot watch. I only watch I can only watch the Kardashians, Housewives of Beverly Hills. I can only watch very different, like very horrible but great reality TV.
Yeah.
But what was a huge inspiration to me was Heathers. This is a 90s film with Winona Ryder. Has also a similar tone, because the tone of this film is the hardest to pull off, and it could have, just as well totally failed. Like there was a big risk in the tone because it's dark comedy and horror, So Heathers was a big example for me because it's funny, it has violence, it also tries to comment a little bit in a playful way on their time. So I thought that was an amazing film. But then also Don's Plum, which is a film that's forbidden in America, created by Leonardo DiCaprio and Tobey Maguire, who are in it. They're just sitting in a cafe talking. It's amazing. And I really love the flow of that film and how real it is and how authentic it feels. But also Kids, which is, of course, the opening kiss is a tribute to a shot in Kids where they are also French kissing like that. And again, I don't want to compare myself to this huge iconic film, but a little bit of that was inspiring to me. And then I had the actors watch Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, like all these really heavy things, because I just needed them to know where I came from and what I wanted to do with them. And Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf is just great because it's one location, but they keep it so dynamic and the acting is so they really were open to each other and had no vanity and no ego. And I told my actors, that's what I would love for all of you to do as well. Like acting is just reacting. You're as good as your scene partner. So you only focus on your scene partners. Don't focus on yourself. It's not important. And that kind of, those kind of rules that you take from the theater also, it's like a very different thing that they are used to, I feel. Yeah. So, yeah.
Do you find, and I wonder, and, I think of your fellow Dutch, Paul Verhoeven. I mean,
yeah.
And I find this as well when I go to the US, that there's this real massive gap between Europeans and Americans in every sense of the word. Just in terms of everything, like manners and just everything.
Everything is different.
It really is, and it's like you've landed on a different planet. And I'm wondering, I mean, do you find the fact that you are Dutch, and do you find that distance gave you an opportunity to comment on American youth culture?
Yes, I can be now like very cocky and be like, yeah. But of course, I also wondered, I also was like, is that a good idea that I should direct this movie as a Dutch person? But I do, because I do think it was crucial to have Sarah Delap, who's American, who went to Yale, and she's going to write this, and she comes from the theater, so that is something that overlaps, but she grew up in American culture. I really, of course, needed that in order to be able to direct this film. Also, I did a lot of research about, and I became aware of the fact that if I was born in the US, I would have never had the career that I had in Holland, because my parents thought it was cool not to have money because they were hippies. So that would never have worked in the US. I would not be able to attend an elite theater school. So all of that. But I do think it's kind of like the exotic part of it all, of me being Dutch and looking at them from a different perspective. I think it's good. It's good for the humor. It's good for, it's just, it brings an awareness to it. And the combination between 90% of the team being American and then me not being American, Maria not being American, I think it was interesting because the film is also about the fear of not belonging. This fear that you have when you go to high school, where you're like, oh my God, am I ever going to be part of the popular kids? And I think Maria and I both live that, every day. I live in New York. Every day I feel like, am I ever going to belong? Am I ever going to be part of this? And at the same time, of course, us as Europeans, we also look down on certain things, but we also look up to certain things, so it's an interesting mix. So yes, I think in the end it was an advantage for me.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, because I wondered if you and Maria, had a sort of a kinship or whatever. I mean, obviously, but we're all Europeans. I mean, was it the two of you were like, it's, what are they doing?
No, of course.
Notes, yeah,
and also we both are classically trained. We come from European hardcore theater schools, where you have to audition with hundreds and hundreds of people. It's such a different background. In the US, of course, if you have money, you can actually, get an education. But in Europe, it's very different. In London, to get into a theater school in London is like almost impossible. So I think, we did have that, and we did share that. And up until today, I feel very close to her. And I think she brought that also to that character. That is a very strange character, but she brought that sort of alien feeling where she's trying to belong to this group. At the same time, she's also, she also thinks, who are these people? Where am I? So yeah, that was, I really enjoyed working with her in that way.
Was she? I mean, because she knew. I mean, in terms of like directing her, in terms of giving her scenes and working with her, did you feel that was there any one character that you felt the most affinity for? Was it her, or was it anyone else?
I think my idea with that character specifically, and that's a very hard thing to pull off for the actors, was that you go into the story thinking that that's the Alice in Wonderland, the beautiful blonde girl that we're going to go on the journey with, and she will hold my hand, and then we will see all this violence take place. But she becomes an unreliable narrator very quickly. And you're like, wait, what is she doing? And I think that I like that because I just feel life is really fucked up. And I just feel also as a performer, I'm now retired, but that I never want to play a likable character because I'm not very I am likable, but I also am really dark. And I just want to, it makes me feel less alone when characters, even the characters that you should identify with, are not just innocent or strong heroes or beautiful. So, in that way, I relate to her, but she also becomes unreliable at a certain point. So for me, all the characters are me, like really, and in a very private way. Like there are things in that film that only my very best friends will read into that are literally all quotes from my life. So I feel that I'm also Pete Davidson. I feel that I'm also the old Greg who says like, how do you play? And who keeps like wanting to connect to the young people, because that was me literally on set. So I really connect to all of the narcissistic, horrible characters in my film.
Okay, you said it, so yeah, great.
Our friend is dead.
Someone's doing this. They're trying to kill us off one by one.
That would be so obvious if I were the killer.
Taking off my clothes in the window for the neighbor.
I'm wondering, actually on that, I suppose, there is this tendency, I don't know if you've noticed it or not, but there does seem to be this tendency of late that, audiences can't seem to connect to characters if they're anyway unlikable, or if, they have to be completely virtuous, or even if they're a quote-unquote villain, there has to be a very sort of virtuous reason for their existence. Whereas I think Bodies, it kind of embraces them the fact that they're all really fucking terrible people, and that they not that they deserve their fate, but that there's an element of kind of, you're almost like, is it terrible to say that you're glad some of them are dead? I know it's,
no,
but you know what I mean. Like obviously it's existing in a heightened reality or whatever.
Yes.
I'm wondering. What has been the most surprising reaction from the film so far, do you think?
I'm just surprised that it's a success. Like I thought it would be a very risky undertaking. So anybody who likes or laughs or sits in the cinema and doesn't walk out, I'm already surprised. No, but I'm just very grateful that it resonates with people, even though what you're saying on paper, you would say, listen, these characters are not likable. You're bending all these genres. It's not really a horror film. There's no, what are you doing? So I feel that somehow that it does work. Maybe not for everyone, but it's doing very well in the US. I'm very surprised and super happy about it because, and to come back to the unlikability of it all, I honestly feel I feel so often like an alien watching films because I'm like, I enjoy it, but I'm just like, that's so not about me. I think it's so important for us, and especially in art, not that I'm saying that this is art, but to relate to our darker side. Because if we keep thinking that we don't have a dark side, it's going to be really dangerous. I think the whole debate about sexuality right now, where we try to say like we have good in sex and bad in sex, and there's good people and bad people. We're all fucked up. Like you only have to open a porn site and what people are fantasizing about. You cannot even, it's too much to even realize. So I find that we are all carrying around this little black box full of demons. And we're like, no, I'm so fine. I'm so great. I'm not, and it's all bullshit. So to me, to tap into the darkness, even in a very entertaining, playful film like this is so important to me, to shine a little bit of light on our narcissistic vein. Because very simple. Like if I go to a Christmas dinner with my family, I'm always looking forward to it. I'm like, oh my God, the whole family's going to sing Kumbaya together. And then you arrive there and it's horrible because everybody's triggered. It's all going to be a mess. So, but it doesn't mean that you don't really love each other, truly love each other. So I feel it doesn't matter that we all have these landmines that are going to explode under the right circumstances in a pressure cooker. That's who we are. And if we don't own that, it's going to be dangerous, I feel. So even though this film is meant as entertainment, there is a darker message. And I also have to admit, I'm not capable of creating warm characters. So that I need to maybe change that. But this is just what interests me. And this is what comforts me. If I look at this film, I'm like, I'm not alone in my craziness.
Yeah. Okay, final question. What if you were to program this film in a cinema next to another film, what do you think that film would be? Would it be Heathers, or would it be, something else?
I like your questions. I don't know. I hope to think it's like a movie that really lives well on its own.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it is such a weird film and it doesn't really obey any genre rules because I don't know the genres that well. So it's just this authentic, unique thing. But I would like it to be paired with my first film.
Okay, that's good, yeah.
Because it never came out in the US. So I have this obsession that people would see Bodies and then see Instinct, which is about a therapist that falls in love with a rapist. So it's completely different. Yeah. But then they would see maybe that there are some similarities. But whatever people want, total freedom. They don't even have to see my film, but I am very proud of it. And I think it's a good laugh and it's just a fun night out. That's how I see it.
Good stuff. Okay, I'm getting a wrap there. Thanks so much.
Thank you. This was amazing. Thank you. So fun.
Jordan, what are you doing?
I'm staying safe.
Really? Because it looks like you're grabbing a meat cleaver to go look for my boyfriend.
You should watch your girl.
You pushed her! Liar!
You just wanna be me.
What is happening?
Is that all you got, mother?
I brought something.
What is it?
It's zucchini bread.
Yum.
I'm a hot girl, pop girl, rich girl. I'm a girl, fast girl. Catch me if you